You are not one self. You are seven selves, living inside the same body, each one fighting for control. Right now, as you watch this, one of these selves is dominant. It's making your decisions, coloring your perceptions, determining what you want and what you fear. And you probably don't even know which one is in charge. Ibn Arabi spent decades mapping the human soul with the precision of a scientist and the insight of a mystic. What he discovered was that the nafs, the ego self, evolves through 7 distinct levels. Most people live and die at level 1 or 2, never knowing that higher levels exist. Some reach level 3 or 4 and think they've arrived. Very few make it to level 7, where the self dissolves into something so vast that calling it a self becomes absurd. Today, I'll show you Ibn Arabi's complete map. By the end, you'll be able to identify exactly which level you're operating from right now, what keeps you trapped there, and what it takes to ascend to the next level. Because once you see this map, you can't unsee it. And every moment becomes a choice: stay where you are or climb higher. Level 1. An-Nafs al-Amara, the commanding self. This is where almost everyone begins, and where most people remain for their entire lives. The Quran mentions this level directly. Indeed, the nafs commands to evil. This is the self that's completely identified with its desires and has no capacity to resist them. When it wants something, it must have it. When it feels an impulse, it must act on it. It's like a wild animal driven purely by instinct with no awareness that it's being driven. At this level, the nafs operates on a simple program: pursue pleasure, avoid pain, dominate others, protect the ego at all costs. Someone at this level lies without hesitation if lying serves them. They cheat, steal, harm others, and feel no genuine remorse, only fear of getting caught. Their moral compass is entirely external. They behave well only when someone's watching or when there's threat of punishment. The moment they think they can get away with something, the restraint disappears. Ibn Arabi observed that people at this level are not necessarily criminals or obviously evil. Many are socially successful, even religious in appearance. They pray, fast, give charity, but everything is transactional. They worship because they want paradise or fear hell, not from genuine love of Allah. They're kind to others only when it benefits them. They practice religion like a business deal with God. I do this, you give me that. There's no actual transformation happening, just behavior modification driven by reward and punishment. The defining characteristic of this level is complete unconsciousness of the self's mechanisms. The person has no insight into why they do what they do. They're reactive, automatic, mechanical. An insult triggers anger, and they lash out without a gap between stimulus and response. A desire arises, and they pursue it without examining whether it's actually good for them. They're like a puppet being controlled by impulses, but they think they're freely choosing. Ibn Arabi said the tragedy of this level is that people here don't even know they're imprisoned. They think their desires are their own authentic voice. They think their reactions are justified. They think their pursuit of pleasure and avoidance of pain is wisdom. They're completely identified with the nafs and cannot see it objectively because they are it. Breaking out of this level requires a shock, a crisis, a loss, a moment of seeing yourself clearly and being horrified by what you see. Level 2. An-Nafs al-Lawwama, the self-accusing self. This is the level of awakening. The Quran mentions this one too. I swear by the self-accusing nafs. At this level, something has shifted. The person has developed a capacity for self-reflection and feels genuine guilt when they do wrong. They're no longer unconscious automatons. They can observe their own behavior and judge it. This is both liberation and torture. Someone at level 2 is in constant internal conflict. Part of them still wants to pursue selfish desires, but another part condemns those desires as wrong. They sin, then feel terrible about it. They make resolutions to change, then break them. They confess, repent, promise never to do it again, then find themselves doing exactly the same thing days or hours later. This is the classical struggle between good and evil inside a single person. Ibn Arabi said, "Most religious people are stuck at this level. They're sincere believers who genuinely want to be good, but they're fighting a civil war inside themselves. They fast during Ramadan with pure intention, then backbite about their neighbor the moment Ramadan ends. They cry in prayer from the beauty of a verse, then lie to a customer in their shop the next morning. They experience moments of genuine connection with Allah, then fall back into patterns of heedlessness and sin. The psychology of this level is self-accusation. The person spends enormous energy judging themselves, feeling ashamed, punishing themselves emotionally for their failures. This creates a cycle: sin, guilt, repentance, temporary improvement, relapse, more guilt. Ibn Arabi observed that many people mistake this struggle for spiritual progress. They think because they feel bad about their sins, they're advancing. But feeling bad without actual transformation is just emotional self-flagellation. The trap of level 2 is that the self-accusation can become a comfortable identity. I'm a sinner who keeps trying and failing, but at least I keep trying. There's a subtle pride in the struggle itself. The person gets addicted to the cycle of falling and repenting because it gives them something to do, a spiritual drama to star in. They're terrified of actually succeeding because then what would they do? Who would they be without their familiar patterns of failure and guilt? Breaking through level 2 requires a fundamental shift from fighting the nafs to understanding it. You can't transcend what you're identified with. As long as you think, I am a person struggling with desires, you're trapped in the struggle. You have to develop enough awareness to see that the desire and the one judging the desire are both movements of the same nafs, and you are the consciousness witnessing both. That witnessing is the doorway to level 3. Level 3. An-nafs al-mulhama, the inspired self. At this level, the constant internal warfare begins to quiet. The person develops genuine discernment between what's truly beneficial and what only appears beneficial. The Quran hints at this, and by the soul and he who proportioned it and inspired it with discernment of right and wrong. This is where intuition awakens, where you start receiving guidance from a source deeper than your conditioned mind. Someone at level 3 has developed enough self-mastery that they're not constantly battling desires. The desires still arise, but there's space between the arising and the acting. They can feel anger without immediately reacting in anger. They can feel attraction without being controlled by lust. They can feel fear without being paralyzed. The nafs is still present, still generating impulses, but it no longer has absolute power over behavior. Ibn Arabi identified the key shift. At this level, the person discovers that resistance to desires often strengthens them, while understanding desires dissolves them. Instead of fighting the urge to eat that forbidden thing, they investigate the urge. What is this really? Is it genuine hunger or emotional emptiness trying to fill itself? When you look directly at a desire with curiosity rather than judgment, it often dissolves on its own because it was never really about the object. It was about an inner state seeking resolution. The inspired self receives direct guidance that bypasses the rational mind. You might be about to enter a business deal and suddenly feel a clear no in your chest, with no logical reason. Later, you discover the deal was fraudulent. You might be drawn to help a stranger on the street for no rational reason, and it turns out they needed exactly what you could offer at exactly that moment. This isn't supernatural. It's your consciousness tapping into a field of information that the limited rational mind cannot access. People at this level begin experiencing synchronicities with regular frequency. They think of someone, and that person calls. They need a book, and it appears. They have a question, and the answer comes through an overheard conversation. Ibn Arabi explained this as the universe becoming responsive to a consciousness that's aligned with divine will rather than fighting it with ego will. When you stop trying to force reality to conform to your desires, reality starts organizing itself around your genuine needs. The danger at level 3 is spiritual pride. You've transcended the constant struggle of level 2. You're receiving intuitive guidance. Life is flowing more smoothly. it's easy to think you've arrived. Ibn Arabi warned that many seekers camp out at this level, enjoying the gifts of inspiration while avoiding the deeper death of ego that the higher levels require. Level 3 is comfortable. Levels 4 through 7 demand everything. Level 4, an-nafs al-mutmainnah, the tranquil self. This is the first level the Quran explicitly praises. O tranquil soul, return to your Lord, well-pleased and well-pleasing. At this level, the person has achieved genuine inner peace. Not the peace of suppressing desires or winning battles, but the peace of alignment. The nafs has been disciplined to the point where it naturally wants what Allah wants. There's no more split between duty and desire. Someone at level 4 doesn't struggle to pray. Prayer is what they want to do. They don't force themselves to be patient. Patience is their natural response. They don't resist giving in charity. Generosity flows from them spontaneously. The commands of Islam are no longer external impositions but internal inclinations. The law and the heart have become one. Ibn Arabi described this as the death of the reactive self. At earlier levels, you're always reacting to temptations, to provocations, to circumstances. Life pushes and you push back. At level 4, reactivity ends. Things happen and you respond, but the response comes from a deep, calm center rather than from emotional turbulence. Someone insults you, and instead of anger, there's just clarity about how to address the situation skillfully. You lose money, and instead of panic, there's just trust and practical steps forward. The tranquil self has internalized the divine attributes to such a degree that they manifest spontaneously. Patience isn't an effort, it's who you are. Gratitude isn't a practice you force, it's your natural perception. You see everything as a gift because you've stopped dividing experiences into wanted and unwanted. Whatever comes is what the moment requires, and you meet it with equanimity. But Ibn Arabi was clear. This is still a self. It's a purified, refined, beautiful self, but it's still an I that exists and has characteristics. The person at level 4 can say, I am at peace, and it's true, but there's still an I making that statement. The higher levels will dissolve even this refined sense of self. Level 4 is the perfection of the individual soul. Levels 5 through 7 are the dissolution of individuality into something beyond. People at this level often become teachers and guides because they embody the teaching rather than just speaking it. Others feel peace in their presence. Their words carry weight not because of eloquence, but because they come from genuine realization. Ibn Arabi said you can recognize someone at level 4 by their effect on others. They calm storms rather than create them. They clarify confusion rather than add to it. They inspire growth rather than dependency. Level 5. An-nafs al-radiyah, the pleased self. At level 5, something extraordinary happens. The person stops having preferences about what happens to them, not in a passive or defeated way, but from genuine recognition that whatever Allah wills is better than what they would have chosen. The Quran points to this: return to your Lord, pleased with Him and pleasing to Him. This isn't just being content, it's being actively pleased with everything, even apparent hardships. Someone at this level receives devastating news, a terminal diagnosis, a financial collapse, a betrayal, and their response is authentic gratitude. Not pretend gratitude, not spiritual bypassing, but real appreciation for the divine wisdom in the difficulty. They see hardship as a gift more valuable than ease, because hardship accelerates spiritual development in ways comfort never could. They thank Allah for the cancer as sincerely as they thank Him for health. Ibn Arabi distinguished this from the false detachment of someone who suppresses their real feelings and pretends everything is fine. At level 5, there's still grief when someone dies, still pain when the body is injured, and still sadness at loss. The human feelings remain, but underneath the feelings is an unshakable pleasure in whatever Allah has decreed. The feelings are like weather passing through the sky, but the sky itself remains clear and pleased. This level is where the secret of Alhamdulillah ala kulli hal, praise Allah in all circumstances, becomes lived reality rather than empty phrase. The person isn't forcing themselves to say it, they mean it. Every moment, regardless of its content, is met with genuine praise because they've seen through the veil of apparent good and bad to the underlying perfection of divine will. People at this level stop making dua for specific outcomes. Their only prayer becomes, "Whatever you will, Ya Allah." Not because they don't care, but because they trust that divine will is always choosing what's best for their ultimate journey, even when it contradicts what their limited understanding desires. If they do make specific requests, it's lightly, playfully, with complete willingness for the opposite to occur. Ibn Arabi said, "Level 5 is where the heart becomes completely flexible, like gold that can be molded into any shape without resistance. Allah can send ease, and the person receives it with pleasure. Allah can send difficulty, and the person receives it with pleasure. Allah can give and take, open and close, elevate and humble, and at every turn the person says, 'This is exactly what I would have chosen if I had your knowledge.'" The danger here is subtle, spiritual materialism. Someone might think they've reached this level because they can rationalize hardship or have developed philosophical acceptance. But Ibn Arabi said true pleasure with divine decree shows itself through the body, not just the mind. Your face lights up when you receive hard news. Your chest expands when you're tested. Your energy increases in difficulty. If you're faking it, your body knows. Level 6, and Nafs al-Mardiya, the pleasing self. This is the reciprocal of level 5. If level 5 is being pleased with Allah, level 6 is Allah being pleased with you. The person becomes so aligned with divine will that they function as a pure instrument. Their actions are no longer their own. They're the hands of Allah moving in the world. The Quran says of such souls that Allah is pleased with them and they are pleased with Him. Someone at level 6 no longer has personal agendas. They don't do things to achieve spiritual states or to earn divine favor or to accumulate good deeds. They act because action arises naturally from their state of alignment, the way a tree produces fruit without trying. Every word they speak, every step they take, every breath they breathe is worship, not because they're making effort to worship, but because their existence has become worship. Ibn Arabi described this as the station of the Abdal, the substitutes, the hidden saints, who hold up the world through their presence. They're often unknown, living ordinary lives, a shopkeeper, a farmer, a mother, but their consciousness is so pure that through them, divine grace flows into the world. When they make dua, things happen. When they give advice, it carries prophetic insight. When they're simply present, problems resolve. At this level, the person experiences direct confirmation from Allah that He is pleased with them. This doesn't come through voices or visions necessarily. It comes as unshakable certainty that has no basis in logic or evidence. They just know that they're on the right path, that they're aligned, that they're held. This knowing sustains them through trials that would destroy someone at a lower level. The paradox of level 6 is that the person has stopped trying to please Allah, yet Allah is pleased with them. When you're trying to please, there's still a you doing the trying and a God you're trying to please. Duality remains. At level 6, the duality has collapsed so completely that your will and Allah's will are indistinguishable. You want what He wants because His wants are expressing themselves through your wanting. Ibn Arabi said people at this level often hide their station because being recognized as a saint would activate ego. They dress ordinarily, speak simply, avoid gatherings of seekers who would make them into spiritual celebrities. They're content to be invisible instruments of divine work, caring nothing for recognition or reputation. Their only concern is staying aligned with the divine flow, moment by moment. Level 7, and Nafs al-Kamila, the perfected self. The 7th level is where the map ends and mystery begins. Ibn Arabi called this the perfected self, but he was quick to say that perfected doesn't mean complete or finished. It means so utterly surrendered that the self has become transparent to divine light. The person at this level is what he called al-insan al-kamil, the perfect human, the complete mirror in which all divine names reflect without distortion. At level 7, the question, "Who am I?" has been answered in a way that dissolves the question. The person knows themselves as a temporary form through which eternal consciousness experiences itself. They're simultaneously nothing, no independent existence, no permanent identity, no separate will, and everything, the entire universe concentrated in a single point of awareness. They're a wave that knows its ocean, a ray that knows its sun, a word that knows it's the breath speaking it. Someone at this level can no longer be described using normal categories. Are they humble or confident? Both and neither. Are they happy or sad? They contain all emotions without being defined by any. Are they active or passive? They move with divine will, which means sometimes tremendous action and sometimes complete stillness. Trying to pin them down is like trying to grasp water. They're fluid, formless, responsive to the moment, without fixed patterns. Ibn Arabi taught that there's only one perfect human in each era who manifests this level completely, but others can touch it temporarily or embody aspects of it. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was the seal of this station, the complete and final manifestation of what a human being can become. Everyone else who reaches level 7 does so by participating in the Mohammedan reality, by becoming a cell in the body of the perfect human that spans all time. At this level, miracles become normal, not because the person has power, but because reality responds to consciousness that's aligned with its source. They pray for rain, and it rains. But they're not doing magic. They're reading the signs of what's already being prepared and speaking it into manifestation. They know things before they happen because they're tapped into the realm where all time exists simultaneously. They heal through presence because their consciousness carries divine mercy in concentrated form. But the defining mark of level 7 is complete ordinariness. The person has transcended all spiritual states and stations and returned to simple being. They eat when hungry, sleep when tired, work when needed, rest when appropriate. They're not trying to be enlightened or maintain special awareness. They've realized that enlightenment and delusion are both concepts, and what they are is beyond concepts. So they live moment to moment, fresh, innocent, free. Ibn Arabi warned that level 7 cannot be achieved through effort, because effort implies someone making effort toward a goal. Level 7 is what remains when all efforting stops, when all seeking ends, when all becoming ceases, and simple being is all that's left. You can prepare yourself through the earlier levels, clearing obstacles and refining consciousness, but the final transition happens by grace, not by will. One day you realize you're no longer climbing towards something. You're already what you've been seeking. You always were. How to identify your level? Ibn Arabi gave specific diagnostic questions to help someone identify their current level honestly. First, what motivates your worship? If it's fear of hell or desire for paradise, you're at level 1. If it's guilt about your failures, you're at level 2. If it's genuine love mixed with discipline, you're at level 3. If worship has become your natural inclination, you're at level 4. If everything feels like worship, you're at level 5 or beyond. Second, how do you respond to difficulty? If you rage against it or collapse, you're at level 1 or 2. If you endure with patience but still resent it, you're at level 3. If you're genuinely peaceful in hardship, you're at level 4. If you're actively grateful for it, you're at level 5. If you can't distinguish between ease and hardship because both are equal gifts, you're at level 6 or 7. Third, what's your relationship with your desires? If they control you, level 1. If you fight them constantly, level 2. If you can observe them without always acting on them, level 3. If desires have become purified and aligned with what's beneficial, level 4. If even the distinction between desire and discipline has dissolved, level 5 or above. Fourth, how often do you think about yourself? If your mind is constantly occupied with your own concerns, needs, image, and story, you're in the lower levels. If self-reference has diminished significantly, and you can go hours genuinely absorbed in something beyond yourself, you're at level 4 or 5. If the sense of being a separate self only arises occasionally and feels transparent when it does, you're touching level 6 or 7. Ibn Arabi's map of the 7 levels is not a rigid hierarchy where you complete one level and move permanently to the next. He said you can operate from different levels in different areas of life simultaneously. Your nafs might be at level 4 in spiritual matters, but level 2 in business dealings. It might be level 5 regarding physical pain, but level 1 regarding ego wounds. The work is to gradually raise every aspect of your being to higher functioning. The map is also not about judging yourself or others. Someone at level 1 is not bad, and someone at level 7 is not superior. Each level is necessary. Each level teaches what that level alone can teach. You can't skip levels any more than you can skip grades in school and still understand the material. The universe puts you at exactly the level you need to be at for your current lesson. What matters is honest self-assessment and genuine aspiration. Look clearly at where you are. Don't pretend to be more advanced than you are. That's spiritual ego. Don't despair if you're at an earlier level. Everyone started there. Just see your current station clearly. Understand what keeps you there, and take one step toward the next level. One step might take years. That's fine. The journey is the destination. Ibn Arabi's final teaching on this: the 7 levels are not really 7 different selves. They're 7 degrees of forgetting and remembering who you actually are. At level 1, you've completely forgotten. At level 7, you've completely remembered. And every level in between is the gradual awakening from the dream of separation into the recognition of what you've always been. Comment below. Which level do you honestly think you're at right now? And what's the biggest obstacle keeping you from the next level?